everyone to another episode of Spooky Japan Podcast. Hoping everyone is doing well today. Irene, how are you doing today?
Tired. But I'm here.
Irene is already in a goofy mood, so this should be a fun one. But we also have our great guest today, Eric Freeman Sims. How are you doing, Eric?
I'm good. I'm good. It's good to be on here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, we appreciate you joining us today.
Yeah, I always love to come
Right.
on. I love to come on and talk to paranormal. So been doing
We
this for
do
so long.
too. We
It's
do
just
too.
yeah,
That's why we do this, so we can talk all the time about it if we wanted to.
yeah.
So, for our listeners out there who may not be aware of who you are, how would you introduce yourself and kind of where did your journey into the paranormal begin?
So I had my first experience when I was about 8 years old. I grew up in a family who was pretty open about the paranormal. They actually talked about living in haunted houses before I was born and things like that. So I know a lot of people kind of get taught out of it as kids because it scares their parents or whatever. But at 8 years old, I woke up in the middle of the night. And I was a weird kid. I always wanted my door shut. Most kids want the door open. I wanted the door shut. It made me feel, I guess, more comfortable or more safe. But I woke up in the middle of the night. The door was open, and there was a white glowing figure in my doorway. And I jumped up out of the bed, slammed the door, and turned the light on. And that kind of was the first real paranormal experience that I can remember having. And then, so I became one of the weird kids that, like, at book fairs and things, I was looking for
Mhm.
Bigfoot books, alien books, ghost books, things like that. And
Mhm.
this is before all the TV shows. And
Mhm.
so I didn't even know there was such thing as like teams that got together, or there was such thing as a ghost hunters. I just knew that I was interested in the paranormal stuff. And then my dad died when I was 14, and
Mhm.
that kind of thrust me into wanting to know what happens, after we
Mhm.
die. And it kind of proved to myself that he didn't just go into nothingness, because I wasn't
Yeah.
really particularly raised religious, so I didn't really have any solid beliefs in the afterlife, like Christianity or other religions. And so me and my friends started getting together. I got a group of friends together that were like-minded, and luckily I had enough of them that were interested in going out to places and investigating. So we would sneak into places, which I don't condone trespassing, but we would sneak into some historic places around here where I live. And I had quite a few experiences with hearing sounds and seeing things. And all we had back then was a mini tape recorder that actually took cassette tapes, and then an
Mhm.
actual VHS camcorder that took the big VHS tapes.
Mhm.
And the quality was crap, but we made it work. And we just took those things thinking that we could record stuff. Not even, like I said, it's before the TV show, so not even ever seen anybody investigate. We just did our best. And then so that started when I was about 14, and then it just kind of ramped up, especially as I got older and started driving and all that stuff. And diving in, and then with the internet coming around and being more prevalent, just diving into researching all the stuff that I was interested in and trying to find out everything I could. And then around when I graduated high school around 2001, when I graduated, you started having all the ghost shows. Like Ghost Hunters come out early, like 2004, I think, and you had all these ghost hunting shows come out. And when I was 18, my 18th birthday, I had a good friend of mine who bought me a book, said The Beginner's Guide to Ghost Hunters or Ghost Hunting. And that was when I figured out that there's actually people that get into groups and actually, do this as a hobby. And so yeah, it just kind of kicked in even more the older I've gotten. And then a little over 4 years ago, I started the Unseen Paranormal podcast. And because I was interested in talking to other people in the paranormal about all different things, not just ghosts,
Mhm.
because ghosts is kind of my forte. But talking about
Yeah,
Bigfoot and cryptids and dogmen and all these other things I'd
that's
never even
one
heard of.
reason why we started ours is
Yeah.
we were hoping
Mhm.
that we can start talking about different aspects and have other people who maybe UFOologists or
Yeah.
cryptozoologists come in and kind of educate us more. Because, like I said,
Yeah.
I mean, we're the same as you. We're more ghosts and urban legends than
Yeah.
Mhm.
cryptids and UFOs. We'd love to know more about UFOs just because we have strange occurrences here in Japan, especially
Yeah.
after earthquakes.
Yeah.
Big ones. Big
But
Yeah.
ones.
we also have like 1,000 different cryptids. But we
Mhm.
here in Japan, it's different because it's not like in the United States where you have like the Bigfoot researchers. We don't have that, and I wish we did.
Yeah.
Just because of the fact is, like I said, we have 1,000 cryptids, and no one's willing to take in the time to go and investigate them or
Yeah.
Mhm.
research them or learn anything about them. And at any
Yeah.
time we do have like a Bigfoot researcher. I'm like, yeah, bring your friends to Japan. I promise you, no one is going to compete with you.
Right.
Information you find out is going to be new and groundbreaking because no one else wants to do it.
Yeah.
No.
So, like, if you do it and you come to Japan, you research, you better come back on our show and tell us what you learned. No one else is doing it.
Yeah.
No.
Is that a culture thing or
It is a
what do you
culture thing,
culture thing?
as
And
someone's told me.
money.
Money.
They don't
As
want.
someone has told me, it's more of people are more superstitious than they are even religious in Japan.
Yeah.
So that's why no one here messes with the paranormal.
Yeah.
Because they're just like, what if it's angry? What if we make it angry? So they just, if it's something else is haunted, they kind of just board it up. It's like, no, I can't, no one can anger it if no one can go inside.
Yeah.
Because there is actually another second haunted forest in Japan. It's supposed to be haunted by a samurai spirit, but it's completely closed off and they completely fence it off. There's not even any like gateways into this forest because they've just boarded up. They're like, no, you can't enter it because what if the samurai spirit gets angry? We wouldn't know what to do. We don't have anyone out here like doing cleansings really, so it's not anything really.
We went to a haunted area. Yes, I think it was yesterday. No, the day before yesterday, and it was the cave where 807 samurai soldiers killed themselves, unalived themselves, and we couldn't get in because it was all gated off. But you could see. I posted it to our page, but it was really interesting because there is a way to get in there because the fence is not totally,
Yeah.
half of it's broken. But yeah, it's a really interesting place to go to, and it was really cool because they said, "Well, there's going to be falling rocks. You can't go in there." There's no such a thing as falling rocks in that cave. Uh-uh. You know.
Yeah. Just come up with some excuse to not let you go in there. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because they don't want you. Because they don't. If something happens to you, they don't. They're saying that it's your responsibility, or they don't want to have responsibility for you going in there and something happens to you. Right? That's why.
Yeah.
And it's just it's kind of like sad because it's a real cool haunted cave, right?
Yeah. And also I think, I think 80% of what I do in the paranormal is about the history
Mm-hmm.
and kind of, making sure that history is known of
Mm-hmm.
lesser known locations. So it's kind of sad that history will be lost eventually about what
Yeah.
happened in that cave, like you're saying, because they don't
Yeah.
allow anybody to experience it or, and take the paranormal out of it. The fact they're not
Yeah.
allowing anybody in there at all and they're blocking it off and kind of just wanting it to be forgotten about,
Yeah.
is sad because that has an incredible history and it needs to be told and retold and
Yeah.
people to know about it.
Yeah, because you can feel the energy from the fence alone, and
Yeah,
you can see the faces in the woodwork or in the soil. It's one incredible super place to visit, right?
yeah.
But there's no such thing as falling rocks from the cave. I mean, really? Nope. Sorry, don't believe that.
Well,
Yeah.
here you also have to be careful because a lot of people ask me how come I just don't try and sneak into some of these places. And I'm like, I've looked into it. In America, it's what, a fine? You get a ticket, you get a
Yeah,
fine. Here in
misdemeanor. Yeah,
Japan, if I'm caught trespassing, it's 3 years jail.
yeah.
I'm like, it is not worth me possibly going to jail. So
Right, right,
they're like, just don't get caught. And I'm like, yeah, I'd rather not, just because the fact is, I mean, especially being a foreigner in Japan, they're
right.
constantly watching you. I'm like, nah, I know my luck. Someone's gonna see me. Someone's gonna report it. Police are
Yeah,
gonna find me. And I was like, yeah, I'd love to spend more time here in Japan, but I'd like to do it not in jail.
right,
So
right.
Yeah. And
I'd
it's
hate for
lovely. Yeah.
Irene to have to continue the podcast during conjugal visits.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I'm
And
here in jail visiting Amanda.
and a lot of these fences are all they all have electricity running through them, right? So
Yeah,
and they have cameras through it. So yeah.
yeah,
But the one that I went to yesterday didn't have anything. Well, I thought, let's go in there. But we didn't. We were good people. We're good people. We just went around it and looked at it and said, okay, we're done.
Yeah.
We took a couple pictures and we left. But yeah, but
Yeah.
it was the most really cool place to visit. And it was just up. It was up the hill near a mountain. In fact, it was in a mountain, and it was such a cool place. And they had um a plaque saying what it was and how many people died, and it was just one of those interesting places that you just
Yeah.
have to visit. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it wasn't too far away from the train station either. So you could walk up,
Yeah.
and they had a really
There's a
neat
lot of
path.
places. There's so many different train stations. That's the one thing I love about Japan is,
Hmm.
especially in the bigger cities, a lot of different train stations everywhere. So it's so easy to get places compared to
Yeah.
always taking a taxi if you're patient enough to take the train.
My area is more unaliving than her area, so our train stations are haunted. Yeah, you don't go there after midnight, right? They said don't go there after midnight.
Wow.
It's
Don't they
yeah,
close at midnight?
3 a.m. is the last train.
Oh, I know some places close at midnight though.
Yeah,
So maybe that's just Tokyo. Other places close at like midnight because they say, kind of plan your trip accordingly because unfortunately at midnight between like 5 a.m. because I think after 5 is when they start up again in some
yeah.
places.
Oh, 3.
Taxis are because they know taxis know they're the only transportation you're gonna get, so they
Mm-hmm.
actually hike up their prices during those hours. And they're like, "Yep, just plan accordingly. You're gonna be paying a lot more that
Hmm.
same taxi ride between
Yeah.
midnight and 5." So
Yeah.
Well, 3 a.m. is the last train, and they open up at 5 a.m. So you got 2 hours waiting if you're gonna wait.
or 5 hours if you're somewhere else. Like I said, I've been places where it was like midnight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That would suck to have to wait 5 hours for the train.
5 hours, you
Yeah.
pay a lot more for the taxi. It's one of
Yeah.
those that's what he said. You gotta plan accordingly.
Yeah.
They have internet cafes around the train station, so you can sleep. So you can pay what, $40, and you got a cot, and then you got a TV, and you can go to sleep.
Which wouldn't be bad, but it's one of those things that would obviously not be cost effective
Yeah.
Mhm.
once that adds up. And yeah, if you try and do it like once a week or twice a week, just when you go out, because I know drinking culture is huge here in Japan. So
Yeah.
definitely, that's also one reason why, like, yeah, just plan accordingly. Because
Yeah. You might end up at a on a train station by yourself.
Mm. And be careful, because you're gonna see a lot of things that you don't want to see, right?
Yeah.
there's a lot of urban legends. I don't know if they'll also let you stay if they're closed though at these
No, they
train
don't, because
stations.
they have a shutter that goes from the ceiling all the way down, so you get blocked off. And
They
then they
also
have
have
the conductor.
security to make sure you're not there because it's
Yeah, and they
closed.
have a
Yeah.
conductor. They chase you out of there if they're gonna close.
Of
Yeah,
course, there's a lot of urban legends around train stations too.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And they have a
Yeah.
how we
tiki tiki.
oh,
You don't want to
it's
get
not
caught
just
by a
her, there's
tiki
another
tiki,
one too.
because the tiki tiki will kill you and
We
drag
have
your
a
body.
we have a problem around here with like the directors of historical societies. They own a lot of these historic locations, and they don't want anything to do with the paranormal. I mean, they threaten their employees with firing
Oh,
them, like tour guides and
oh,
stuff if they talk about the paranormal stuff.
jeez.
Yeah, and it's just ridiculous because
Yeah,
um like I mean that's part of the history and that's part of connecting to the history and if the tour guides and
exactly.
employees are having experiences in these places because they're in them all the
Yeah,
time and
yeah.
people taking pictures that you see of and they
Hmm.
catch stuff in them. But yeah, they don't want anything to do with that. So
Yeah.
um we had a lot of locations, a lot of historic locations, especially in my area in Tennessee and around Nashville,
Hmm.
that kind of opened their doors to the paranormal during COVID. because they could do small groups of people, and still
Just
make
wear
money.
masks. I've been to
Yeah,
some of those too during COVID, where they, for that reason, especially those society places, where just like I can't do the big tours.
yeah,
But there's always, if there's a team member who's into paranormal, they talk the owner into, let me
yeah,
supervise paranormal,
Yeah.
investigations. We'll do small groups. We'll require everyone when they come in to wear a mask.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Because normally they were a lot of these places rely on weddings and big events like that, and during COVID for 2 years couldn't do that. So having a couple of paranormal and teens a week in there, it worked out. And I did a lot of fundraising stuff too during that time for a lot of historic locations to help them keep the doors open. But I was glad that they did open the doors, during that time, because otherwise they wouldn't be around now. I mean, like a lot of businesses aren't around after COVID, and so
Did
the historic locations, they're
Did you find a lot of activity going around when COVID hit? Did you find a lot of more paranormal activity came around during COVID than
I don't.
before?
I don't think for me it escalated because investigating all the time and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. But I think people had to stop. I think more reports because people had to actually stop and spend
Mm-hmm.
time in their houses and things like that. So I think a lot more people experienced more paranormal stuff because of that. Because instead of their busy life when they never pay attention to
Yeah.
stuff, now
It
they're just
wasn't a
sitting in their house.
daily.
Yeah,
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 that's also what people are saying is when places get less busy, the reason why you tend to get more activity is not because it's more haunted or there really is more
Mm.
activity, but I guess the ghosts every day are not hearing the same questions daily. So
right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they're more likely to
yeah,
want to interact because it's not the same thing they just heard yesterday. So when you're coming in like once or maybe twice a week, you're like, oh, someone new to talk to.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And also, I think they need time to recharge too. I mean, just like
Yeah.
us living people, like I with the podcast and with coming on other people's shows, there's some days that I just don't want to talk to anybody. Like I want to stay at home by myself,
Yeah.
and I'm a really social person. Like I need the social interaction, but
Mm-hmm.
we all need to kind of recharge. I think spirits are the same way. Intelligent spirits are the same way, especially if you got teams coming in every night.
Mm-hmm.
And like you're saying, the same questions all the time, and they're just like, I'm over this, So, and but also, like I said, and with COVID, like you're saying, Amanda, that they kind of maybe got lonely a little bit, because nobody was coming in anymore.
Because they could only do like once a week just
Yeah,
because of
yeah,
they couldn't.
yeah. So they had to get the attention of whoever, however they could. Yeah,
They're like, someone new. Who
yeah,
are you?
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
Like I do a lot of residentials per se, and I got a lot more calls during COVID. And I said, just a second, I had to make a schedule because if I didn't, I go crazy. Like, okay, call me tomorrow. Like, oh gosh, I'm sitting,
yeah,
and then their time schedule and their their days and our nights. I'm going, okay, hold on, okay,
yeah,
and
yeah. I think I
and
think I think you had a lot
sometimes,
of people sitting and watching more of the ghost shows as well
yeah,
because they had nothing to do. So they're
yeah,
binge watching, and so then they start thinking that every noise in their house was
yeah,
paranormal.
yeah.
And yeah,
But yeah, that's where I have to do a consultant first before I go into their home. I always usually talk to them, and then because one session could take about 6 or 7 hours longer, right?
yeah,
Depending on how bad it is or how busy it is, and like okay, ooh, like by 7 hours, I'm just like okay, I'm done.
yeah, yeah,
I'm gonna take a snooze, But yeah, it gets pretty hairy sometimes. Yeah. 7 hours going straight, you're about to flop because you used all your energy and you can't do it anymore. You go, ooh.
Paranormal hangover is a real thing, and I
oh
hate it when
yeah,
people try and argue about it. Like,
Yeah.
no, you only think that way because you're walking around more. And I'm like, not really. I'm not walking around the whole entire, however long the investigation is.
Yeah.
right,
So I'm like, I'm sitting there being quiet most of the time, trying to get a response. So I'm just like, I'm not. I don't know why people people who don't investigate assume that's what we do, and we're just walk around the whole entire. Let's say you book the place for 5 hours. That's what you're doing is walk around 5 hours straight. And I'm like, no, it's a lot of sitting around in a quiet room hoping to hear a response.
Yeah. I think some locations are worse than others as a drain on kind of your energy to where you need a couple of days to recover, because whether it's the spirits pulling that energy out of you or you're putting that energy out there to try to make contact. Yeah, it's a drain. Like, it's not like you're saying, Amanda. It's not a tired drain. It's not like my body's tired because I walked around and went up steps or whatever. And it's not even necessarily like a sleepy thing from being up all night. It's just like I have no energy whatsoever for a few days, and kind of refill your batteries type thing, recharge your batteries.
Yeah. And then I use my physical energy and my mental energy included on top of it. So by the time I'm finished, I said, okay, I'm done. Like I said to my kids, can you make supper tonight? Because I can't do it. Like
Yeah,
I
yeah,
just can't.
Well, that's why you also have to love 7-Eleven being across the street from you, because you can just like
Yeah.
go get a dinner there.
Yeah. Getting noodles there. Here's the money. Go and buy it.
I hate so I've done a lot of those public event investigations, and I hate it when people. And it's one of those things where I kind of have mixed emotions about it. Where if you're thinking about being into the paranormal, it's definitely something you should do first before you go out and buy equipment.
yeah,
Just because the people, whoever runs the event, has equipment there for that reason. For the people who don't have equipment or just learning, compared to a lot of people who watch it on Ghost Adventure, like this looks like so much fun, and they
yeah,
go buy thousands of dollars of equipment, and then they realize this isn't for me. And I'm like, because it's not like the TV show, and that's also why I hate those public investigations for those people with the first time investigators, where unfortunately, and the reason why I don't like it is I've been unfortunately in a lot of them where it's not even the first hour into an investigation, and they're just the person running the event is like, hey, you're not going to be happy about this, but everyone else besides you wants to leave, so we're just going to shut down the event for the rest of the night. And I'm like, what? And I go talk to them, like, yeah, we're
wow,
bored. I'm like,
Yeah.
what did you expect? And I was like, I
yeah,
looked at the clock, and it was like 45 minutes into the investigation. And I'm just like, what did you expect?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
They're like, well, I
yeah,
assumed as soon as we turn on the equipment, things would get thrown at me, or all this evidence was going to hit me.
Oh
And I was like,
gosh.
it's unfortunately not like that. I
yeah,
wished it
No.
was,
yeah.
but it's not.
No.
A
Well,
lot of those
that's
TV shows, actually, what they don't want you to know is some of them are not even one night in. Some people do like 2 weeks there, 3 weeks there, but they just wear like the same outfit, so you feel like it's the same night.
yeah,
Or
yeah,
unfortunately, how much of the evidence is actually real evidence? Because I'm not saying they fake it, but I'm not saying they're not faking it.
No.
yeah,
Can't say they fake it because they'll always say, "Oh, of course it's real," but it's also entertainment.
yeah. Over the years, I've done a lot of public ghost hunts, and I've never taken a dime. It's always been for the
No.
location and for the historic location, or whatever. But the first thing that we always tell them is this is not TV,
No.
and
Yeah.
I
you
wish a
know,
lot of other people would do that, just because
Yeah.
I get tired of events. They're like, well, no one else wants to be here, so it doesn't make
yeah,
sense to keep it open just for you, just for one person who wants to stay. Everyone else wants to leave. They're bored, and not even an hour in. You get tired of that so fast. That's what I'm saying. I
yeah,
wish you would warn new people coming in, like, hey, by the way, it's this. This is not like TV. Please don't
yeah.
expect it.
And I explained to them that most TV shows are at a place 4 or 5 nights in a row for
Yeah.
6 7 hours to get one EVP.
Yeah.
And like you're saying, even if it's true evidence, and then also shows like Ghost Adventures. I know some people who have dealt with them when they've come to locations. They come in with a script. Well, how do you script paranormal
Mm.
investigating? And because they want to make sure there's drama and that Zach gets possessed or whatever, because
Zach's
it's
always possessed
entertainment.
every episode.
Right, right. And he's got to have the old muscle point, where he flexes his muscles and points at something. But I'm sure that's
Yeah,
in the
like
script
that's so
too.
natural.
Yeah.
Or else he takes off his shirt and say, "Come at me, come and get me."
Come at me, bro. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's why in the beginning I respected TV shows like Ghost Hunters because they would even put out episodes like they didn't catch anything, and
Yeah.
then they kind of changed over the years too because of ratings. But yeah, I always every public event that I do, I always tell the first thing I tell the patrons is that this is not TV. We may sit in the
Mm.
dark for the next 5 hours and not catch
Yeah.
anything.
Or at
And
least you don't know you catch anything till later and you hear like
yeah,
a whisper
yeah,
somewhere and maybe that's it. And that's also what I tell people is you could be in the most haunted location and you might have a bad night. It doesn't
Mm.
mean anything. I don't know why people put so much competition in that.
yeah,
Like, oh, I'm gonna go to this really haunted location because this person got like Eric got so much evidence the other night, and then you're like, oh, I didn't get any evidence, so I guess I'm not a good ghost hunter. Or it might be vice versa, where like, oh, I went there the other night, I got so much evidence. Eric just went there last night. He said he didn't get anything. He must not be a good ghost hunter. And it's just like, no, they were once human. They get bored. They just don't want to interact. It's just a night. The
yeah,
next,
Mm.
yeah,
I mean, you don't know. The next time you go there, you might have a bad night, and the next time you go there, you might have a wonderful night. And that's also what I tell people is doesn't matter your skill. There's going to be investigations where you get absolutely nothing.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I've had people tell me when I've asked that when we've had nights where nothing's going on, I've said,
Mm.
I hope that you're not bored. And I've had people tell me like, no, you set that because you set that expectation at the beginning of the night, then nothing may happen.
Yeah.
Then we already knew coming into this that this is not TV because of what we told them in the beginning. But
Yeah.
also, I like to entertain by telling stories and asking other people's story if we don't have anything going on, but
Mm.
also getting the people involved in the investigation so they don't get bored. Instead of,
Yeah.
and I've seen teams who will get up and say, "Y'all sit back and watch us investigate," and I think that's ridiculous because I think
Mm.
people come out to public investigations to be hands on and learn how to investigate. Now,
Yeah.
some of them you catch them off guard because they're not expecting that, but that's one of the things we tell them right up front too. You're gonna learn how to investigate. You're gonna be part of the investigation. We want you asking questions the same as us because sometimes the spirits will respond to one person where they're not responding to me, and that may be a
Yeah,
cultural thing. It may be a time thing where, like in the
Mm.
1800s, women
Mm.
necessarily wouldn't talk to men, that they
Mhm.
didn't know and things. So you have all these cultural differences, religious
Yeah.
differences, and all that may factor into that. It's where they may talk to somebody before
Yeah.
they'll talk to me.
Yeah.
And
or it
so,
might be some people said like they brought someone into an investigation, and then they find out that that person resembled someone that that spirit used to know.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
So it might
Yeah.
be, they resemble someone they used to know. So they're gonna be like, oh, it's like talk to my old friend again.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and so, but I like to get the people hands on that way. So we do something called roundtable EVP sessions, where we'll put
Mm.
the recorder in the middle, and we all sit
Mhm.
around. And everybody asks the same question, and you'll
Mhm.
I've
usually get them to answer. At least one person, will get an answer
I've
on the EVP.
recommended that just
Yeah,
because I've heard another group do that, and they
yeah,
say it's interesting where you do that, and usually someone, because they said unfortunately, if you're just everyone's asking random questions, the reason why you're not getting response to them is they don't want to respond to that person, but if someone else asks it,
yeah,
they're like, "Oh, okay," and
yeah,
they want to answer, and they say it's interesting because when you do that, you also get they say they do that, and they say each
Mhm.
person will get a different spirit, or one
Yeah.
person gets this one spirit, another
yeah,
person will get this other spirit.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I don't know if it's something to do like because being on two different planes where maybe they're not hearing some of us,
Mhm.
but they're hearing this one person because they're on the same vibration or frequency or
Mhm.
whatever.
Mhm.
Or like I said, different cultural differences, different time differences and things. Because like if you're talking like little kids, I mean, I'm a pretty like dominant guy and I'm a big guy.
Mhm.
So I might be intimidating to a little kid. So they might not want to talk to me. But
Yeah.
like a motherly figure, like a woman
Yeah.
who has kids or something who has that
Yeah.
motherly, they might want to talk to them.
Yeah.
Or like you said, Amanda, like they resemble somebody they knew. Maybe they resemble their mother, their father, their brother, a best friend or something. And so, they might want to talk to them or feel comfortable, talking to them more. But I think there's also like I said, like a frequency vibrational
Mhm.
barrier there
Yeah.
that maybe they can hear some people where they can't hear other people more clearly.
There's also a theory that I believe with some places where the time times kind of overlap.
Yeah.
Sometimes it might not be a spirit that you see, but our plane or time or whatever you want to call it is overlapping somehow with theirs, and that's how we're kind of seeing them or they're seeing us. And I believe it was Kalani, the ghost hunter, who just said in an interview that he was in a place with his team investigating, and he says, we don't ask how you die because they might not know how they died. You just ask what's the last thing you remember, and you kind of piece it from there. But
Yeah.
they also don't. They also ask what year do you think it is?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they said one time they got someone saying it's 2048, and they're like, "What do you mean? It's 2024 now?"
Yeah.
And they thought, and these were investigators at this location, thought they were the ghosts that they
Yeah.
were
Yeah.
investigating, and
Yeah.
there's just
Yeah, I've been interested in time slips and things like that for a long, long time. I think it's fascinating, and I agree that I think sometimes, we're the ghost ourselves, even though we're living, because of that time slip. Yeah, and it could even happen in the future. We always think of, we always as investigators we're looking to the past, to the history and stuff. We never think that.
we assume when we
Yeah,
ask our questions, we already assume everyone's in the past. They're like,
yeah,
he
yeah,
said, stop doing that. Ask them what year do they think it is, because you might find out
Yeah.
it's a year in the future, and to
yeah,
them, we're the ghosts.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I
Or
find that
something.
interesting.
Yeah.
Like there's plenty of stories too where that's happened, where people have turned around and these historical locations and seen like a whole family sitting down to dinner or something,
Yeah.
and and they see this scene. Well, they're not necessarily dead, like we're saying. We're just seeing some sort of window to the past, and it's kind of like the movie The Others with Nicole Kidman.
Yeah.
Where that kind of, yeah, you find out that she killed her kids and they're dead or whatever, but it's kind of the two different things where they're having trouble. She thinks that she's haunted and having trouble communicating with those people. Well, those people are actually living, and they're having
And
trouble.
she's the one who's dead.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and they're having trouble
Yeah.
communicating with her. Um, and one of the things about bringing up how'd you die and things about death, from what I've always seen, that if you got good communication going on, it always just shuts it down like that. Like they'll just stop communicating, whether it's through EVP or other means. And I don't know if that's because they don't know they're dead, or like we said, there's a time slip, or what the reason
That's
is,
what they
or
said.
we're not
Stop
supposed to
asking them
know.
how they died, because
Yeah,
they're probably
yeah,
like, I'm not the one who's dead. I hate to break it to you. And you're like, nah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I'm still
Yeah.
alive.
yeah,
Yeah. And then you get others who don't believe that they're dead at all, and who want to like
Yeah.
start up an argument because they're saying, I'm not dead, I'm alive. And they said, oh, okay, I'm not going to argue with you, because if I do, you're going to get pissed off at me. So I'm not going to say anything, right?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And then sometimes you get, it's really weird, because sometimes you can talk to a person, like if I'm talking to you one on one, I get a relative of that person who comes in and says, hey, I know you. And they go, okay, there's a person here who's saying they know you. And they said, oh, yeah. And I said, did you bring him in? No, it just came to me. It just said, oh, hi, I know him. I go, okay, who is he? Oh, he's your dead relative from a long time ago. He's your dead grandpa, like from a couple years ago. And he goes, from a couple of centuries ago. And they go, okay, where's he from? Louisiana. Oh, okay. Like that's weird. And
yeah,
then we started
yeah,
talking, and then he started come. He stayed and came in and started talking, and it was kind of like weird, like okay,
I
yeah.
know a
Just
lot
get
of times.
errant ghosts come
I,
in. Yeah,
I know
yeah.
a lot of times people say they experience a time slip from the past.
Yeah.
So and they see us from like the future in a time slip, and I'm always like, what? It. I wonder when it's always like the reverse, when we're the
Mm-hmm.
past and
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
it's a time slip from the future. Like that's what they were saying, is sometimes
Yeah.
it's like that one investigation where it was more of a future for them, is more of a time slip.
Mm-hmm.
Where I'm like, as many times as people had a time slip to the past, I'm sure it happens to them.
Yeah.
well, and like I even think that with the Bigfoot stuff and like some of the cryptid stuff, specifically Bigfoot, I think some of that could be attributed to time slips because you have them talking about the woo or whatever, where Bigfoot is
Mhm.
supernatural and
Mhm.
just
Mhm.
disappears. Well, maybe we're just seeing a time slip of a creature that lived during the ice
Mhm.
age or whatever,
Mhm.
20, 30,000 years ago.
Mhm.
And we're just, I mean, if you see a bear in the woods, you don't go up and poke it in the butt to make sure it's real. You just assume
No.
you don't assume it's a ghost
Mhm.
or anything, right?
Yeah.
Who says there's
Yeah.
not ghost deer and things out there?
Yeah.
And so maybe that's some of the woo stuff. Like I said, where they call it cloaking or whatever for Bigfoot, where he just disappears. They just disappear. I think that could be some time slips that we're seeing.
But
Um,
also, when I see pictures or when I see videos of a Bigfoot around, right, I notice that the area is it's like the same thing as you see paranormal pictures, right? It's either this way or this way, right?
yeah,
So it's they're very close together, right? Of 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 a picture of a spirit and a picture of, they're distorted as heck, right? So
yeah,
they either go this way or the lines go this way, right? So it's almost like almost the same thing as how we see spirits, right? Because the pictures are distorted, and they can come out like out of focus, right?
yeah.
So
Yeah, and that's what a lot of people complain about with Bigfoot is all the pictures are blurry, and so they're
yeah.
always making fun. But you're right, Irene. It may be something that has to do with that um, time slip or spirit or whatever, because it's
Mm,
not something that's actually physical. That's actually affecting the camera. Yeah,
yeah,
I
because
think that's also why people think that he is from another dimension, is people
yeah,
assume that he
yeah.
jumps through a portal, and because I've seen videos where people, the reason why they think this is they'll take a video of him, but he is slipping in and out. Like first you see him, then you don't. He's kind of slipping in and out of reality. So they
yeah,
assume,
Hmm.
oh, he's jumping through a portal, but maybe it's that time slip where the time slip is now fading before he just disappears.
Yeah.
yeah. And I find Bigfoot fascinating and interesting as a cryptid because even Native American tribes, the majority of
Hmm.
them have a story about big
Yeah.
hairy man,
Yeah.
and they just took it that Bigfoot was real, and they just lived,
Hmm.
right alongside them, like the man of the forest, and they kind of just didn't, bother them. They let them do their own thing. And then some of the Native American cultures also believed that Bigfoot was special because they had one foot in each world.
Hmm.
Like we're
Yeah.
saying, with it being from another dimension, they
Yeah.
believe that they had one foot in an alternate, world, heaven or the afterlife or whatever, and that they could walk in both worlds.
Yeah.
And you don't, and the reason I say that about Bigfoot is because like dogmen and things like that, other than skinwalkers out in the Midwest,
Hmm.
you don't hear a lot of cryptid stories from Native American tribes.
Hmm.
I mean, there are like I said, skinwalkers and then
Hmm.
Bigfoot, but there's not a lot of them
Mhm.
from the culture. So to me, it adds credibility when
Hmm.
they do have a story about a cryptid
Hmm.
that we still have today. To me, it adds more
Yeah.
credibility that they were seeing Bigfoot back then.
Yeah. My friend lives on a because she is part Native American. She lives on a huge property, and she's got cryptids in her land too. And sometimes they come out, and sometimes she said, "Don't come near me." Like she said,
Yeah,
"Don't attack me. Don't bother me. I'm gonna leave you alone. You leave me alone." Yeah, because she goes out in her garden. She goes, "Uh oh, here we go again." Like, but yeah, she'll talk to me about it, but she won't talk to anybody else about it.
yeah,
It's just one of those things that you live on that land. It's just one of those crazy things that happens to you.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah. And
she's
so,
used.
and in some parts of Canada and U.S., it's just
Hmm.
people just in these small towns in the mountains and stuff. They're just like, yeah, just
Yeah,
they don't talk about it because it's Bigfoot exists.
yeah.
No,
But
no
she
big
lives in
deal.
Indiana. She lives on a huge land,
Yeah,
and there's a whole bunch of trees and stuff like that. And when she when she pans the camera around, you could see them in the trees or on the grass. Like it's plain as daylight. It's daylight, right? You can see them right there.
yeah, yeah,
And it's really cool because for us, we can't, if we talk about somebody that probably did us wrong, they'll come after them like you won't believe. So you have to be very careful how you talk.
Yeah.
Because they're always listening. And then pretty soon you hear death drums in the background. They go, oh, 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 oh. Like, we should have talked about that person. Yeah, you're right. It's scary, but you have to be extremely respectful when we talk to each other. Even after regular conversation, we're extremely respectful because yeah, stuff can happen, right? With the least not expected.
Yeah.
For us, it's normal, but it can be on the other side, looking at it, outside looking in, it can be scary. So it depends, right?
Yeah.
There's something about Native American spirits that are just next level.
Yeah, it's just yeah, because they protect the person who lives on the land, right? And so if
Yeah.
something bad happens to that person who's they're protecting on the land, they go, "We're gonna go after that person. That's it, no problem."
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I
I am.
mean,
I'm majority Native American.
I'll
Yeah,
say yes and no to that because obviously there's also some where they're going to try to run off the property. So I can't say just
Yeah.
because you live on the property they're going to protect you. It might be the opposite because I've
no,
Yeah.
heard the opposite.
yeah,
And
Yeah. Yeah.
unfortunately, you can't just go and cleanse the house because,
no,
like I
no,
said, Native American spirits are just next level where they're just like they don't want to go, they're not going to go. You can't go
no,
there and cleanse it.
no.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
my friend tried to remove it, and I said, "That ain't working right. How's that working for me?" "No, very good." And I said, "Okay, let's work with them. Let's
Yeah.
let's let's let them help you and protect you because they're part of you, right? They're part of your history and part of you and part of your blood." She goes, "Okay, let's do that." So she got better. Yeah, and then now they protect her, and then they don't like anybody who says anything bad about whatever her or us or anything like that. So it worked out for the both of us, right?
Yeah. 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 My the major part of my ancestry is Native American,
Yeah,
Cherokee and Shawnee, and
yeah.
the three out of my four grandparents are full blooded Native American. So yeah,
Wow,
I don't have a choice but to
that's
look like this: the dark skin, the black hair, the brown eyes.
that's so cool.
Yeah,
You
I
know,
didn't. Now I'm not affiliated with any tribes. I didn't grow up on a reservation, nothing
no,
like that. But
no, no.
yeah,
But that is so cool. Neither is my friend. She's not affiliated either, but she's also part Cherokee, and it's it's amazing because they still see her as part of them, right?
yeah,
Even though they're not part of any tribe, they just see her as a part of them, and
yeah, yeah,
it's amazing, because
At
they're
least you got lucky because they're not always that welcoming or friendly.
yeah,
no,
yeah. No, there's plenty of stories of them trying to run people off and
yeah,
maybe even killing people. So
oh yeah, oh
yeah,
yeah, or
yeah,
bad things happen because they tried to develop the land, like
yeah,
whoops, like
yeah,
oops,
yeah.
like oh yeah, and you
Yeah,
wonder
especially
why.
if it's a piece of land that the Native Americans themselves said this is bad land. We don't go here.
Yeah,
And, now white people go in and
and
develop
they
it.
try to do something stupid to like,
Yeah,
and all of a sudden the big whoops. Oh, oh, that land must be non-developable. Okay, we're gonna leave. We're gonna leave it. Like you saying, yeah, dumb idiot, right?
yeah, yeah,
Like duh.
yeah,
But they'll blame it on something else. They'll say, "Oh, there's nothing, blah 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 to this land, or there's something bad, there's something wrong with this land, or the system doesn't work." And I go, "Oh, yeah, right."
There's up to a few miles from me, up in towards Nashville. There's a house that they when they built the house, they found stone box graves in the front yard, from local Native tribes, and they removed them. Well, the house burnt down twice in 20 years. And the second time it burned down, the people decided not to rebuild. They sold it to as commercial property. So now they've built these two-story office buildings on the property. And apparently they've had problems renting them out because they found more box graves and they moved them. But apparently they're having bad luck with these two buildings they built in the parking lot. So I don't know. It's interesting correlation. I don't know if that proves anything, but it's an interesting
Why would you
correlation.
move the box graves, right?
Yeah,
Why would you
yeah,
do that? Why would you mess with something on the land? Why would you? Oh.
yeah. They don't care. They just want
Because
to
a
make
lot of
money.
people don't believe in the bad luck from it,
Yeah,
so it's one of those things. And then they also they're thinking more of how they can profit if these were just
yeah,
not in their way, kind of thing. That's their thinking. Is not everyone's in the paranormal. Not everyone. You could go there. You could. I mean, the world's best psychic could walk up to them and warn them, and they would just never believe it because all
good.
they're thinking is, "Well, this is what's preventing me from me making more money."
Yeah, yeah.
And then there's me that's gonna go. That's what I would do. But yeah, okay. That's why I don't live there.
Because there is, because I used to live in Montana, and right next to where I lived was one of the Indian reservations. And not the younger ones who don't really, not really into the whole culture or traditions, but the older ones who are still true to like the Native American values.
Hmm.
There is places that those ones will say, I will absolutely not go or let my family go near because there's evil spirits
Yeah,
in this little area. They're like, this mountain range, okay, those mountains over there, don't go over there.
yeah,
But of course, a lot of people obviously still do,
Hmm.
and it's one of those. I think that's also why there's a lot of different legends
Hmm.
in Montana. Like, there's some people believe that there is also some of the mines are actually gateways into the hollow earth.
yeah,
They say Montana and Alaska, there's something special about them where they have some kind of gate or portal, not some little gateways or whatever
Hmm.
to Hollow Earth or whatever, past to Hollow Earth, however you want to say it. They also say
Hmm.
that's also why some people end up missing because there's been mines that were boarded up because groups of people were end up missing, and even the search teams would go there and they couldn't find any cave-ins. They couldn't. There's just no trace of these groups of people. They're not
Hmm.
finding anything. They're not seeing them. So finally, after a while, people disappearing, they just kind of boarded up these mines because there's always urban legends of what people saw before that.
there are some Native American tribes around the country that believe in I forget what they call them, but they're like living rocks. And so people disappearing, they claim that sometimes rocks will open up and swallow people.
That
So
is
they'll open up
actually
like a mouth and suck people in and then just close back up and the people just disappear.
that is actually an urban legend here, but they
Hmm.
call them basically like frog rocks because they said when they open their eyes, it kind of looks like a frog. And when it opens its mouth, it looks
Yeah.
like a frog, and it can shoot its tongue out like a frog, and it's sticky. Then unfortunately, they say if that tongue hits you, it's so sticky. There's
Hmm.
nothing gonna be able to pull
Hmm.
you out of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why
I've
they
got
call
some
them like toads or whatever they want to call them.
I've got some friends that you'll need to have on with the Native American stuff. They're from the reservation out in Montana area, I believe. They grew up on the reservation and they have a podcast called Fallen Out Radio, and they have some of the most incredible stories of Indian magic, and they call it their medicine, but it's like a magic type stuff. They got some incredible stories of things they've experienced and things that they relatives of theirs have experienced on the reservation with different cryptids and ghosts and all kinds of stuff.
Hmm.
Those two guys are awesome. You need to have them on the show. They're great. They're two brothers, Sidell and Marcus, and they have a great podcast as well. But you want to talk about the Native American stuff? They can definitely get in depth and like I said, from growing up on the reservation, tell you a lot of really incredible stories um, about
That's
not just the
interesting.
folklore, but also them experiencing really crazy stuff that you're just like, are you kidding me? Kind of mind blowing stuff.
Yeah.
But they're both very credible, and I believe them. I've known them, both of them, for quite a few years now, and I've had them on my show a few times, and I've been on their show, and yeah, just great guys. But yeah, you want to get in depth with some of the stories and the magic and the medicine stuff with the natives. Yeah, they'll be your go to people.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
It's
one of the urban legends here with those what they call the living rocks. Is they said one day a fisherman was out fishing at a lake for a while, and then he saw someone across the river, I should say, or lake or river, or whatever it was.
Mhm.
Well, I think it's probably across the river, so because the person could see. So across the river,
Mhm.
he set up, he started fishing, and then he said he looked up at the fisherman. The fisherman pointed towards him and then started running away in a panic.
Hmm.
So of course, when he ran away in a panic, when he's watching him run away in a panic, he decided to also, he's like, I don't know what's going on. He ran in a panic
Mhm.
and he found the guy. He's like, what's wrong? And he said, you didn't see it. That that boulder you were sitting on opened its eyes and then yawned.
Yeah.
So then they went back to see what he thought was the boulder he was sitting on, and it was completely gone.
Mm.
Wow.
And it was supposed to be like a
Yeah.
huge boulder, so it can't.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things I'm interested in is like here in the United States, the missing 411 stuff with David Paulides.
Mhm.
And I would like to see, I think it'd be interesting to see that mapped across the world in different countries, because he does the clusters, United States, and most of them center around cave systems and national parks. And so a lot
Mhm.
of the stuff that he does is the weird disappearances in national parks. And I'd like to see that, like, places like Japan, and see if there's still those clusters around areas like that, um, and to see and hear some of the stories of the weird disappearances too, where people just disappear in the thin air. I mean, you talk about stories where people are they're with a group of people on a trail, they go around the corner 10 feet and they're gone, and they never find their
Mhm.
bodies.
Yeah.
So how did they just disappear?
We have beaches like that here where after the World War II, um, you know, they closed the gates of this park. They made a park out of it, okay? And in the park right next to it is the beach. And right in that beach is the Pacific Ocean where soldiers used to climb on the beach and when and they were fighting during the war. And what happened was that after 9 o'clock, if you're there, if you're in that beach, you're gone. There's
Mm,
no sign of you. What happened to you? And they don't know why. They don't know if it's a magnetic thing. They don't know what happened to, but apparently, they call it haunted. Okay,
yeah,
but people have disappeared. Even homeless people have disappeared, and there's no sign of your body. There's no bones. There's no image of what happened to you.
mm,
You're just gone.
Yeah,
yeah,
I know what he's talking about with the one in the United States, just because I've seen it.
yeah,
But the theory is like a lot of the national parks in America are made to be national parks just to kind of home something, either creatures or even sometimes with the mountains and the caves,
Yeah.
aliens, because supposedly as as urban legend says it, so it depends if you believe in this or not.
Hmm.
One of the presidents of the United States made a deal with aliens that
yeah,
kind of keep the peace and maybe get some of their technology. Then we would allow them to abduct certain amount of people each year.
Yeah.
So they believe that's also why these disappearances are happening. Is that's also why you can't ever find
Mhm.
their bodies ever.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. We even have fishing vessels that if we just watch news, they said, okay, sometimes we even watch the news, they said, oh, there's another fishing vessel. Oh, yeah, there's another one. And they all come up empty. And the police are called, the Coast Guard's called to bring the vessel on the shore. And yeah, there's nobody in it.
yeah, yeah,
And the vessel has no there's nothing wrong with it, right? It's still
yeah,
working boat, and the fishing vessels they have no crew, no nothing in it. It's just,
yeah,
and
yeah.
they're
The
saying
ghost ships.
it's still an open investigation because they don't know what to write in it
Yeah,
because
yeah,
what happened happens, right?
yeah, yeah. Was it an accident? Did somebody go crazy and kill everybody and then throw themselves overboard? Or yeah,
Well, it's
because
also what she's talking about in that area is supposed to be the Japanese version of their own
Bermuda.
Bermuda Triangle.
Yeah.
yeah,
So
Yeah.
it also has to go with whatever theory is with the Bermuda Triangle, because that's also what they're saying it happens in that little
yeah,
area up there.
yeah,
Bermuda Triangle, from the stories that I've seen, like with planes going through and stuff, it seems like some sort of like time slip or like portal
yeah.
Hmm.
into a different dimension, and that's why people just disappear, or boats and things, and I think there's a lot of triangles on the planet. Like I know
Yeah,
there's a
and
there's a bunch in the United States. Yeah,
that's one of them is up there too, up in
yeah,
Yeah.
Japan, up north, and that's also where they're coming up missing, just like the Bermuda Triangle. So that's also
yeah,
what they're whatever theory of the Bermuda Triangle is kind of what they're going with that, because they're just
Yeah.
whatever the Bermuda Triangle is, it's the same way with that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. In the United States, you have the Alaska Triangle, which is lots of weird stuff.
Mhm.
Um, you have the Bridgewater Triangle.
Mhm.
Down like Utah, Skinwalker Ranch, there's another triangle.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's all these just these areas, and like we were talking about before, you know, maybe some of those areas are areas that the Native Americans knew better and stayed out of, and because most of
Mhm.
them are rural, it's not really densely populated places,
No. Yeah.
um, where these areas are, but as far as like the national parks with them, like you say, trying to cover something up, like we have a national recreation area not far from me called Land Between the Lakes, and they flooded these two valleys to put in hydroelectric dams back in the 50s.
Mm.
And it used to be the land between the rivers because there's a big strip of land, a big
Mhm.
peninsula that goes up. Now there's these huge two giant lakes where you can, I mean, people take yachts out on these lakes. That's how big they are. But they think
Mm.
that they did that, and ran all the people off the land back in the 40s and 50s because of dogmen and Bigfoot. And there's stories that are urban legend because there's no proof of people getting mauled to death by a creature that has to be bigger than like a mountain lion, or something like that, or a bear. Um, the way that they've been torn apart and things like that. So yeah, it's interesting because I've heard that even in my, like I said, even around where I live, I've heard that about them creating that
But
area for that specific
the,
reason.
don't they know that even whatever you do to the land, it's still gonna remain there. It's still gonna be part of that land, and you
no,
can't.
unfortunately, most people don't believe that. That's
But
what
it's
Right.
yeah,
paranormal
but it's
investigators
still gonna
always say.
be there, right? No matter what you do with it, right? No matter how stupid, whatever
Yeah.
yeah, it's still part of that land, and it's still gonna be there, and you're not gonna get rid of it, right?
Yeah. 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 There's been other encounters on that land that people, since they turned it, over the years since they turned it into that recreation area, because people go out there and camp. They camp. They have campgrounds. I mean, you can go out there and ride, four wheelers and dirt bikes and go boating and all that stuff. So people still use the land. It's not
It
abandoned.
can eventually disappear, because I used to live near. I'm not sure if you've heard of this, Devil's Tramping Grounds.
Uh-uh. Never heard of that. No.
It's supposed to be, so it's somewhere in the Carolinas where it was believed that the devil goes to this place at night, and there's a circle where absolutely nothing grows in.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And a lot of people at first have had paranormal experiences going in there, but then they said new owners taken over and they clean up the place, and they said like when you go back there now, the energy feels different, and they're not getting any more paranormal activity.
Hmm. I think I know what you're talking about. It's like an acre of land. There's no trees,
Yeah,
no
it's like
nothing.
it wasn't a camping place, but then
Yeah.
because of
Yeah.
people with the reputation and how people were going there,
Hmm.
the owner fenced it off. So I mean, unfortunately, now people go there,
Hmm.
they're sneaking in there, but people who said they've gone in there has said it's not the same.
Yeah.
I don't believe there's any more activity there anymore for whatever reason.
Hmm. Yeah. I don't know. It's interesting. Also because you never know people's intentions either, especially with something
Yeah,
like that where they're making money off people coming there to see it.
Yeah.
Um, so you don't know if it was a big urban legend that they just played off of to make money. And then the new owner come in and said, "Well, there's nothing to this, and I'm not going to take people for their money." Or maybe the new owner come in and doesn't want anything to do with the paranormal, and so they're trying to
Mm.
discredit it and saying, "Hey, there's nothing going on here anymore. Nothing to see here."
I wonder if that's what actually happened, because I know a lot of people believe places are haunted because the owner said so.
Yeah.
So they try and make believe that they think it's haunted until finally, like, a new owner would take over and be like, "No, it's absolutely not.
Yeah.
There is no," because that's what happened to someone I used to know in my hometown.
Mhm.
His parents bought a house that's supposed to be one of the town's most haunted houses.
Mhm.
They didn't believe in the paranormal. They laughed so hard at the realtor. His realtor is trying to warn them. They're like, "Oh yeah, a lot of people don't want to live here just because it's supposed to be haunted. Everyone has seen this apparition of this woman on the
Mhm.
steps." They laughed, and I asked him because they lived there for years, and he grew up in that house, and he was just like, "I never once experienced anything." So I think that
Yeah.
was more of a tactic for people to try and come to that location.
Mm.
Yeah. Well,
It's like,
as an owner of a haunted location, I own a 200-year-old house in Hopkinsville, Kentucky, and we have stuff happen there almost every day. And I'm not just saying that
Mhm.
because I'm letting teams come in and investigate,
mhm,
but and for the most part, I want to be more about the history of the
Mhm.
location than the hauntings. The letting teams come in and investigate is just a way to help us restore the location.
yeah,
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? And maintain it because it's a 200-year-old house. It's about 5,000 square feet. It's a massive house. It's on
Mhm.
3 acres of land. It was originally on 300 acres, and so yeah, we're using the paranormal for teams to come in. But yeah, we have stuff happen on a regular basis, and I don't put things out there as a
No.
serious investigator. I've never put anything out there that wasn't true that I couldn't show. And we have some videos up of things that have happened in the house and sounds and stuff like that. We've only owned it for going on 5 months, but it's been pretty active. So I'm excited to have teams in,
Mhm.
starting in September this month to investigate because I want to see what they get versus what I've experienced. And I don't even want to
yeah,
necessarily tell them what I've experienced in the house
Mhm.
because I don't want to bias them.
No.
I want them to come to me and say, we got this CVP or we have this phenomenon. And it's a correlate, I mean, to prove to me what I've been seeing, is paranormal and not something because I call myself a skeptical believer because I'll be the
Mhm.
first one to jump in and try to disprove anything
Mhm.
and try to
Mhm.
explain it in a rational way.
Mhm.
And I think you kind of have to be that way, especially if you're going to put any kind of evidence out.
Yeah.
Um, but I also figured out a
I
long time
love
ago.
it.
I mean, I'm
Yeah.
41 years old, so I figured out a long time ago I don't have anything to prove to anybody. So
No.
I don't put a whole lot of evidence out just
No.
because I don't feel like I need to. I don't, it's
Yeah.
I'm not gonna put a video or audio out that's gonna change the paranormal world. So
And you don't
yeah,
have to prove it, and you don't have to say,
yeah,
like, believe me or not. Like, if you don't
yeah,
believe me, that's fine. If you do believe me, that's good too.
yeah, yeah,
Like I'm kind of like that way. Like, this is
yeah,
what I see. This is what I feel. This is what's there. I mean, I know it's there. You know what's
yeah,
there. Do they know what's there? No. Do I care if they know what's there? No. Like,
yeah.
believe me or not, but I'm not there to make you believe what I see, right?
Right, right. Yeah, and that's how I am as
Also,
well. Yeah.
that's also
Um,
why we've had teams on here that say they go into locations absolutely blind, not know anything about it
yeah,
beforehand, because they said this way we realized we're not being influenced by
yeah,
anything. Because whatever happens happens. We're not
yeah,
trying to
No.
go somewhere to make sense of something, trying to make something happen.
Mm-mm.
We're like it's one of those things where they just let happen, and then they
yeah,
try and see if it makes sense later based off of
Mhm.
any history or any experiences people have had before. But
Mhm.
they said people will be like, "Oh, in this hallway, we talked to a person named whatever." You're not there trying to call out for this
Mhm.
person, thinking that
yeah,
they're there. They're like, this way, you're absolutely not influenced. Your
No.
evidence is your
yeah.
evidence.
My motto is kind of investigating. My motto has kind of become: we don't go investigating a haunting. We go into investigate stories of a haunting.
Yeah.
Because until I can prove it to myself that your house is haunted, and I catch evidence to, um, play into those stories of
Mhm.
George the ghost walks through the house or whatever,
Mhm.
then I don't know if your house is haunted or not.
No.
And we all know going into especially private locations
Yeah.
with private cases that people some people want everything to be paranormal because they lost a loved one. And so they want it to
Yeah.
be signs or whatever.
Oh
But
yeah.
then you have also people with mental health issues as well.
Yeah.
And also people who just don't know any better because they've watched the TV shows. So every bump and bang in their house,
Yeah.
they think it's something paranormal. And so um it's it's interesting to filter through all that. But like I said, I think that's a great way to investigate without hearing the stories,
Mm-hmm.
because like you're saying, it doesn't bias you. And that's the
No.
same as, like I said, my motto with, we're investigating stories of haunting, not necessarily haunting. um
Yeah.
for me, I think I go in skeptical enough anyway that
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it influences me whatsoever.
It doesn't persuade you or anything like that.
Right.
Like I like
Right.
to go in a place blind too, because whatever's written about that place may not be true,
Right.
and it could be actually a person that thinks that happened there or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's totally the opposite of what happened there, and I'm saying, okay, yeah, that's not true, like, because this happened there, and that happened there. So yeah, it's kind of like totally biased of what I see and what I feel, right? So
Well, and a lot of times it's like the telephone game. So, like,
yeah,
Irene, I call you and tell you a story. Well, when you
yeah,
call and tell Amanda that story, without your intention of it changing, some of the things are
yeah,
going to slightly change. And then Amanda
yeah,
calls somebody else, and
yeah.
yeah, by the time it
it,
gets through 20 people, it's a completely different
well,
story.
yeah,
Yeah,
you got a tail on it, you got ears on it, you got
right.
wings to it,
Yeah,
right?
that's why in school they
Yeah,
made us some of the teachers to make us play the telephone game just for that reason, so you can
Yeah,
hear just and that's all. That was always the moral behind it was, or the
yeah,
lesson behind it was, don't
yeah,
believe everything you hear because it starts
yeah.
off with this,
yeah,
it gets passed around, and it ends up, and this is what that person hears. So it's
yeah, yeah.
That's
It's been
why that's why books on that particular house or that particular place, I'm saying, no, that's not what happened here. Like, no,
yeah,
that's just baloney, like, I
yeah,
was gonna say another word, right? But you know what I was gonna say, right? Yeah, and it's no, 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 no. And they put those pictures up, and they show them. They have this paragraph written under it. Says, yeah, that's not what happened here. No, no, no,
yeah,
no, no.
yeah,
And it's just like, wow, okay, and then I hear, how do you know that? Because I could see it in my head what happened there, and I could see it. This is how they live, and that's what happened there. Like the 200 old house, your old house that you have, I bet you it was a plantation, right?
it's not in the sense of
No, but I know,
it was a huge
I
farm. Yeah,
know, I know it was a huge property. It may not have been so-called plantation, but I know it was a huge. I saw it as in the past. I could see things in the past sometimes, right?
yeah,
I saw how it was, and it had a beautiful fountain in the front yard, and they had a beautiful garden. Yeah, that's how I see it, right? So yeah, I could see it that in the past having like that. I can't see it in the future right now, but I saw
yeah,
everything in the past how it was, and it was a beautiful place, right?
yeah, yeah. It
I
still is.
remember
It's an
I've
amazing house.
seen I've seen that as it was, not as it is.
Yeah, yeah.
So
It's been interesting too to go from over the years renting out locations to now becoming an owner of a
mhm,
location. Um, I don't know. Most owners of locations, privately owned like we do,
mhm.
aren't necessarily paranormal investigators.
No,
yeah,
The
no,
majority of them come across the property because it's cheap and the county or the
yeah,
city don't want it or something like that.
yeah,
And then the other locations are all historical, so they're either owned by the city or
yeah,
and ran as a historical location. So I went into this thinking, okay, as an investigator, what would I want
mhm,
if I rented the place out? What would I want that you
mhm,
don't get at other places? And so we're
yeah,
gonna start. We start off with the basics. Of course, we have electricity and water, and the
mhm,
house is livable. So it's. I mean, people have always
yeah,
lived in the house, and so went from there, like high speed internet, so that way people can live stream if they want. Things like that, and just add in. I've never had a place I went to that had snacks and drinks. Just something as simple as cheap as that. You know,
mhm,
no, they
you know,
always tell me to bring my own,
yeah, yeah, and
yeah,
we're
and
gonna
that's
have a
always one thing I
refrigerator.
stock up on.
Yeah, refrigerator available, microwave available as well, which I've never seen in a location. Where if you do bring your own stuff, you got somewhere to put
Especially
it.
because if you're gonna be there a good majority of the night, I'm clearly
Yeah,
gonna want something to snack on and drink.
right,
yeah,
right. Yeah, and also a thing I've never been handed is like a historic packet with like names, dates, and history, right, of the location. So I'm going to do for our people coming in. I'm going to do a 2 page just kind of rundown of the history,
Mm-hmm.
with like I said, major names and dates and things. And so if they want to focus in on the people that actually live there, and
Mm-hmm.
also to make sure they get the history right, hopefully,
Yeah,
um,
exactly. Because
yeah,
there's just so much out there that okay, I'm just gonna leave it at that. Okay,
yeah, yeah.
like
Yeah, well, I
mm-hmm,
mean, you got people want to throw the D word around everywhere, the whole devil thing, and now for clickbait, now you got skinwalkers that become clickbait.
mm-hmm,
To where
mm-hmm,
which that drives me crazy because skinwalkers only exist in the Navajo culture in the Midwest
mm-hmm.
United States. You're
Yeah,
not
Yeah,
gonna. I've seen people from England
mm-hmm.
say there's a skinwalker at a place they've investigated in the UK. Well, that's impossible. There may be
No.
there may be some creature that's you know
I wouldn't believe it if someone said it here in Japan either.
yeah
There's some urban legend. There's as like as many urban legends as we have.
yeah
Skinwalker is
Mm-hmm.
not one of them.
Uh-uh. Uh-uh.
Like, well, don't you have shapeshifters there? Not like America. Yes, we do
Uh-uh.
have some that can turn into
Mm-hmm.
like a beautiful, like in the form of a beautiful woman, but that it's not the same as United
No.
States. So like,
right
we would, and also at the same time here, they would never the ones that can change its shape or change its appearance. You can't. Don't ever tell someone in Japan who's into urban legends that that's a shapeshifter because they're like no, it is that is completely something different. Do not classify them the same as the same thing.
yeah
Yeah.
yeah.
It's just totally different. And every country has their own right.
I love learning about the different culture, especially with ghost hunting, because
Mm-hmm.
the beliefs will change it slightly the way that you investigate,
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
but pretty much we're all the same as well.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like we may speak different language, different culture, but we're all exactly the same. And
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, we have different beliefs or whatever, but when it comes
Yeah.
down to the core beliefs,
Yeah.
you know, and that's for me, that's what makes me believe in ghost and the spirit world and the afterlife even more,
Mm-hmm.
because no matter where you go in the world,
Mm-hmm.
people have beliefs of ghost and spirits and afterlife, and on some level. And when you have people all around the world for centuries have had like Native American culture, not only is that my ancestry, but it fascinates me because
Mm-hmm.
okay, well, if they believed in Bigfoot back then because they saw Bigfoot, they're very much into what they seen in their world.
Mm-hmm.
Then that tells me there's more to it. And so then if you look across all the cultures across the whole world,
Mm-hmm.
and seeing ghosts for thousands of years, well, there must be something to it. There's not a lot of people hallucinating or
No.
lying or anything like that.
No. That's why in this country, if you want to know something about what happened a long time ago, you always ask an old person.
Yeah,
Young people here now are not into what we're doing. Okay, if they are, they keep to themselves, or they have their own place where they bring it out. In Japan, these a lot of these investigators come out on TikTok, but they will never come out on Facebook because a lot of employment owners watch Facebook. Okay,
yeah,
and if they're ever caught, they lose their job, which is
yeah,
totally inappropriate as far as I'm concerned. Just because you come out and say what you want, that you see something, or that you've seen something, or that something happened to you, it immediately termination of your job, right?
yeah,
Which I think is totally unfair. And you'll get ridiculed, or you get ridiculed, or you get teased by your coworkers, right? Yeah. I mean, mm, I don't know. For a man, it's totally different. For me, like, I've been here for a long time. I've known and I've seen a lot of stuff, and I've done a lot of stuff. But I just will never, ever, ever come out and say what I do. and I will never, ever, ever come out and say what I see because, yeah, I have to live here, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And my family is the same way. My children are like me, and they do see a lot of stuff. They have come up and said to me what they've seen, what they've experienced, but they will never come out and say what they've done to their employees, or they will never come out and say what they've done, have seen to their teachers.
Yeah. Yeah.
You just don't.
To where Amanda's just the crazy white lady that
Yeah,
Yeah,
deals with ghosts.
it's so sad because here there's so much history, there's so much hauntings, and like where I live is 100% haunted. Okay, like you can't go out and live in an apartment or buy something or live in a house like I have without a clairvoyant around finding, okay, this house is that property has that, so you have to find a different one place to. You can't do that.
Yeah.
It's that bad, right?
Yeah.
And if you want to see something paranormal, just go to your front door. You can see everything paranormal. Like Amanda, like she can all she does is have to go out her front door. There's that. Like you can make a big list, right, Amanda, of
yeah,
what you see. And you don't have to pay money to go anywhere. Okay, there's that. See that there. You
Yeah.
just it's just right outside your front door. You said, and they say, "Oh, take people to paranormal tour." Okay, open up your front door. Yeah, there you go.
the one
And
thing I had to get used to living in Japan, when I first moved here, taking my dog out at night, and I saw this shadow figure just standing and staring at me.
yeah,
And usually, I've seen shadow figures before. I'd say it's unfortunately though, shadow figures usually dark or they're in and out, or it's one of those
Yeah.
where you kind
Really
of like, did I
quick.
see that? Or
Yeah.
see in a photo here, he
yeah,
will stand and stare at you. And the first time I saw one standing and staring at me, and I'm like, is this reality?
yeah,
I was
yeah,
looking around and I'm not seeing anyone else. I'm looking back at this thing and it was like this shadow person standing there staring at me on the other side of the
yeah,
room. And I'm
Wow.
just like, is this, is it me? Have
Yeah.
yeah.
I gone crazy?
And it's stand there. It's like
And
bite
I'm like,
me,
I
okay?
didn't drink
Like,
anything. I'm not on anything. And then I
yeah,
Yeah.
knew it was real
yeah,
because of the way my dog was reacting. My dog was reacting like how, I mean, you posted yesterday, you have 7 dogs. You know how dogs are.
Yeah.
They see a
Yeah.
person, they're like, I have to go sniff them.
Right. Right.
yeah,
So she was behaving like she did, and when she saw anyone, she wanted like she wanted to sniff them. She wanted to investigate them. She wanted pets, and
yeah,
she was acting like she saw this person. So I'm like, okay,
Wow.
my dog is reacting in a way that she sees a different person.
yeah,
Yeah.
So if my dog sees it, so it's there.
yeah.
I would be
It
the same
has.
way, especially since you're just staring at it and it's not like you said, most of the time you see shadows, they're really quick and darting, but yeah, just to see it like standing there, just like, hey, like what? Yeah, I would be
People
the
like,
same
how come
way.
you don't try and talk to them or take their picture? And I'm like, because they tell me not to. And I'm just like, you
Yeah,
know what? Whatever your boundary is, good enough for me.
Right.
And I was like, I'm not gonna take a picture when it told me not to
Yeah.
and
yeah.
find out what
You
happens.
just you just don't. You
Yeah.
just don't. And where she is more like it's a very sad area where she lives, and where I live it's more like a like in your face kind of like like
So I live in Nagasaki. So
Yeah.
just to the right of me is the Nagasaki bombing area. Just up north of me is the Hiroshima one.
Yeah.
Mine is also
yeah,
more country and rural
yeah,
compared to Irene, who lives in Tokyo. So complete
Yeah.
opposite. That's
Yeah.
also what I
yeah,
tell people. Like, there's difference in where I am and where she is,
yeah.
because obviously Tokyo is completely different. It's not country.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
one of the
The
biggest
air
cities in the
is
world.
different, the atmosphere is different, the way it hits you is different, right?
Yeah.
For her area it'll hit you like this in your face. In her area, for my area it's like you bit like, don't go there, don't go there, don't go there, don't go there. That's how we react in this area. because it could be dangerous for her area. It's like, I'm here. What are you gonna do about it, right?
Yeah.
That's how they act in her area, and it's 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 more of a sad, more of a like a real tearjerker movie, right, where she lives,
Yeah.
and you have to have more compassion when you're in her area than when you're in my area. My area, you just okay, I'm not going to talk to you, I'm not going to interact with you, I'm going to go this way, you're going to go that way, and yeah, we'll be great, we coexist with each other, but we're not going to bother each other, right?
Yeah.
But in her area, you could react to it, you could talk to it, you could feel the pain in her area. It's heavy. It's like you have a heavy cloud on your head, like all the time. You could feel that area in her area, and
Yeah.
it's not. They're not gonna hurt. They're not gonna hurt you. They just want you to know how they felt
Yeah. Yeah.
and what they went through, so you could. It just comes and it sits in your body. You can just feel it. It's just like wow,
Yeah.
and that's
No, the
one
ones down
thing.
here just want left alone, and they occasionally have entered my apartment just briefly to let me know if you cross
Yeah,
our boundaries, we can at any time enter
yeah,
your house. I'm like, I wasn't going to anyways to find out
yeah,
what's going on. I wouldn't.
yeah. Like
I wouldn't. I was
Right.
like, I wasn't going to.
Yeah.
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 Yeah,
Yeah. I don't blame you. Like, I mean, especially going from, like, you're American, and so going to a different culture, and they probably have a good reason to say, don't do this,
yeah,
whether it's paranormal or not. You probably
yeah,
need to listen.
yeah. And
Um,
she called me. She called me. She messaged me. I said, "Okay, where? What?" And I go, "I just okay. Just sit down, drink your cup of coffee, just ignore it." Like,
What I did was just in and out, so I didn't really
yeah.
care. It's just
yeah,
more of they just want to let me know if they
Right.
enter my home, and I'm like, you don't have to give me a warning. I wasn't going to do it regardless.
yeah, yeah,
I don't know why you think I was going to cross that boundary. I'm like, once you set a boundary, I'm like, yeah, I'm good.
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I won't
Yeah.
mess with you. I'll leave you
Yeah.
alone.
Yeah,
I'll
Right.
see you outside of the road. That's fine.
yeah.
That's still an
It's
incredible experience, though. To just, yeah, I'd been in complete disbelief too to see something like that.
you
You're
said,
supposed to
"What?"
because I'd be like, you're supposed to disappear. Like, what are you
Yeah, I
doing?
know too. That's why at first I was like, is this real?
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
just like, it's thinking in my head. I'm like, what's going on? Am I losing it finally?
Yeah.
I thought it was me losing
Yeah.
it finally. I'm like, is, is this real?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then my dog was like, all right. And my dog is acting like there's a person. She sees
Right.
it.
She said, "I want
And
to
I was
lick
like,
it. I want to pet it. I want it
yeah.
to pet me. I want to, Like, yeah,
Because
you
my
know,
dog assumes everyone was put on Earth to pet her. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
so.
yeah,
Yeah.
Anyways, Eric, thank you so much for joining us. We'll
yeah,
have to have you
Yeah.
on again.
yeah,
Yeah. Thanks for having me. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, we'll have to have you on again. We'll definitely love having you for a future episode.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah. We're
thank you
kind
so
of.
much.
I like the all over the place conversation, different
Oh,
things.
we
So
do that all the time. That's why we
Oh
have
yeah.
people
flow.
ask us what we're
Mm,
going to talk about on the show, and I'm like,
everything goes
whatever comes up.
sideways here. We don't talk about one thing, and we're not into that because there are other things that go with that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I like it when it goes sideways because it's not.
Yeah. You have different conversations all the time. Yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it makes it more interesting, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for getting up early to do this with me.
No, it's fine. We're used to it.
That's fine.
And
Yeah.
everyone out there, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next
Yeah.
time.
Thank
Bye
you.
for now.
Bye.
Bye bye.